The maitre d' at La Blanc hesitated when I gave my name. His eyes darted between my simple black dress and the exclusive restaurant's crystal chandeliers, clearly questioning whether I belonged. Park. Reservation for 8. I repeated softly, maintaining eye contact. Ah, yes. The Harrison party mentioned there. Guest would be early. His pause spoke volumes. I'd heard that tone for 30 years since arriving in America. The one that suggested my accent made me less than welcome. I followed him past tables of Manhattan's elite, feeling their subtle glances. At 55, I'd grown used to being underestimated. My silver streak hair was styled simply, my jewelry minimal except for a single jade pendant, my mother's last gift before I left Korea. The pendant had seen me through night school, through building my company from nothing, through raising my son David alone after his father passed. The Harrison family was already seated, Richard and Elizabeth Harrison, their daughter Amanda, and her fiancé, my son David. 2 other couples I didn't recognize completed the party. David stood immediately, his smile warming my heart even as I noticed the slight tension in his posture. "Mom, you're here." He hugged me, whispering, "I'm sorry in advance." Elizabeth Harrison's perfectly lipstick smile didn't reach her eyes. "Mrs. Park, how nice of you to join us. We weren't sure you'd be comfortable in such a formal setting." "Please call me Sarah." I took my seat, noting how they placed me at the far end, nearly separated from the main group. "Sarah," Richard Harrison repeated, exaggerating each syllable as if speaking to a child. "Tell us again what it is you do." David mentioned something about banking. "Financial services," David interjected quickly. "Mom runs." "Oh, like one of those little cash advance places." Elizabeth's friend tittered. "How entrepreneurial." I caught David's hand under the table as he started to speak. This wasn't the first time I handled such situations. "Something like that," I said serenely. The waiter arrived with wine menus. Richard waved his hand dismissively in my direction. "Perhaps something simple for Mrs. Park. Does this place serve steak?" "Actually," I began, but Elizabeth spoke over me. "Richard, darling, remember what Amanda said about her background. They'd probably prefer soju." She turned to her friends. "It's this ethnic drink, quite crude really." I watched my son's knuckles whiten around his water glass. Sweet boy, always ready to defend his mother. But I taught him patience, taught him that timing was everything, in business and in life. Speaking of background, Amanda's friend Melissa leaned forward, pearl necklace glinting. "We simply must discuss the wedding." "Amanda, darling, are you sure you want?" Everyone giving toasts. Some accents can be so hard to understand. "Mom's English is perfect," David snapped. "She has 2 master's degrees and—" "David, sweetheart," Elizabeth cut in. "No one's questioning your mother's achievements. We just want the wedding to be perfect." Perhaps she'd be more comfortable watching from the family table? No pressure to speak. The waiter returned with the wine list. Richard reached for it, but I had already picked it up, scanning the selections with practiced ease. "The 2005 Chateau Margaux," I said to the sommelier. "2 bottles, please." Richard's eyebrows shot up. "Now see here, that's a $2,000 bottle." 4 bottles, I amended smoothly. "We're celebrating, aren't we?" Elizabeth's laugh was sharp. "Mrs. Park, please don't feel obligated to. We wouldn't want you to overextend yourself." I simply smiled, remembering the mortgage documents for their penthouse that had crossed my desk last week. The ones they'd refinanced through a subsidiary of my company, desperate to maintain their lifestyle after Richard's hedge fund took a hit. "Mom," David whispered, "you don't have to." "The caviar service for the table as well," I told the waiter, enjoying Elizabeth's growing discomfort. "And perhaps Mrs. Harrison would like to hear about my recent acquisition of the Sterling Financial Group." Richard's fork clattered against his plate. "Sterling? That's impossible. They're our mortgage holder. The CEO is Sarah Park," I finished softly. "Would you like me to say it more slowly? Perhaps with a stronger accent?" The silence that fell over the table was delicious. Elizabeth's face had gone pale beneath her expensive foundation. Richard's mouth opened and closed like a landed fish. But you said," Amanda stammered. "That I work in financial services." "I do." I sipped my water. "I also own the building you live in, the summer house you're struggling to keep, and as of last month, the bank holding your underwater mortgages on both." David was trying not to smile now. My son, who'd watched me build an empire from nothing, who'd understood why I let people underestimate me all these years. Now then, I continued as the wildly expensive wine was poured. Shall we discuss the wedding? I believe you had some concerns about my ability to give a proper toast. The rest of the dinner passed in a fog of shocked silence punctuated by Elizabeth's nervous attempts at recovery. But I wasn't done yet. This was just the appetizer. The main course would be served at tomorrow's engagement party in the hotel I'd acquired specifically for this purpose. After all, I hadn't built a multi-billion-dollar empire by revealing all my cards at once. The morning of the engagement party, I sat in my penthouse office reviewing the Harrisons' complete financial portfolio. Their desperation to maintain social status had left quite a paper trail. Mortgages, loans, credit lines, all stretched to the breaking point. Pride, I learned, was expensive to maintain. My phone buzzed. A text from David. They're trying to change the venue last minute. Mom, what did you do? I smiled, remembering Elizabeth's face when she'd arrived at the Grand Plaza Hotel that morning to finalize the arrangements, only to find her preferred vendor contracts canceled and her usual event planner mysteriously unavailable. Just wait, I texted back. The Harrison family had built their reputation on old money and social connections, but real power, as I'd learned over 3 decades of building my empire, wasn't about who you knew, it was about what you owned. At precisely 2 p.m., my assistant announced Elizabeth Harrison's arrival. Mrs. Park, Elizabeth swept in, her designer suit unable to hide her nervous energy. We need to discuss this venue situation. Sarah, please, I gestured to a chair. And what situation would that be? The hotel claims our usual arrangements have been canceled. There must be some mistake. We've held events there for 20 years. Ah yes, I said, reviewing a document on my desk. Under the previous ownership, but management changes as do policies. Elizabeth's perfectly manicured hands clenched her purse. Surely you understand, given your background, the importance of maintaining certain standards. My background? I raised an eyebrow. You mean as the owner of the Grand Plaza Hotel chain? The color drained from her face. What? I acquired it last month, along with several other properties your family frequents. The country club, for instance. I believe your membership is up for review. You can't? Actually, I can. Just as I can review those creative accounting methods Richard's been using to maintain your lifestyle. Interesting reading, by the way. Elizabeth stood abruptly. Are you threatening us? Not at all. I'm offering you a choice. I slid a folder across the desk. Inside are 2 documents. One is a complete audit of your family's financial dealings, ready to be submitted to the SEC. The other is a contract for the engagement party at my hotel, under my terms. Why are you doing this? I thought of every smirk, every mocking imitation of my accent, every time they'd made my son apologize for his embarrassing mother. Because you need a lesson in humility. The party stays at my hotel. You'll personally greet every service staff member, the ones you usually ignore. And when you announce Amanda and David's engagement, you'll do it in both English and Korean. Korean? But I don't. I've included a phonetic script. Practice your accent carefully. We wouldn't want you to embarrass yourself. Elizabeth's hands shook as she took the contract. And if we refuse? Then tomorrow's society pages will feature a very interesting story about the Harrisons' financial house of cards. Your choice. After she left, David called. Mom, the in-laws just called Amanda in tears. What happened? Just ensuring everyone feels included in the celebrations. You're terrifying, you know that? I learned from the best, people like them, who taught me that power isn't about how loudly you speak, but about when you choose to speak up. The engagement party that evening was a masterpiece of subtle revenge. Elizabeth, perfectly coiffed but visibly nervous, greeted busboys and waiters by name. Richard, usually holding court with his social circle, stood quietly by the bar, jumping every time I walked past. But the real satisfaction came during the announcements. Elizabeth Harrison, queen of Manhattan's social scene, carefully reading Korean phrases of welcome. Her usual confidence shattered as she stumbled over each syllable. How does it feel? I whispered as she finished. To worry about your accent being judged. Amanda, who'd been watching the evening unfold with growing understanding, approached me at the dessert service. Mrs. Park, I mean Sarah, she hesitated. I want to apologize. For everything. I never realized. What? That the immigrant you mocked built herself into something bigger than your family's fading fortune. No, she looked down. That we were the ones who should have been embarrassed. Not you. I study my future daughter-in-law, seeing perhaps the first crack in her entitled worldview. Interesting. And what do you plan to do with that realization? Learn, she said quietly, starting with Korean if you'll teach me. I want to understand David's heritage, your story. Well, I smiled. That's a start. 6 months later, I sat in my office reviewing the changes the Harrison family had undergone. Like any good investment, social rehabilitation required careful monitoring. Elizabeth and Richard had downsized to a more modest apartment, one they could actually afford. Their social circle had shifted, especially after the mysterious leak about their financial manipulations forced Richard to step down from several prestigious boards. But it was Amanda who had surprised me most. A knock at my door interrupted my thoughts. Amanda entered, no longer wearing the designer labels that had once defined her. She carried a stack of financial reports, part of her new internship at my company. Sarah, I finished analyzing those mortgage applications you gave me. I gestured for her to sit. And 3 of them are from families like mine, living beyond their means to maintain social status. I flagged them for review. She paused. I also noticed they all serve on the hospital board with my mother. Interesting observation. And what would you have done in my position 6 months ago? Exploited their weakness, used it for social leverage. She met my eyes. But that's not why you gave me these files, is it? I smiled. My future daughter-in-law was learning. Sometimes the best revenge isn't destroying people like your parents. It's teaching them to be better. Like you did with me. There was no bitterness in her voice, only understanding. You chose to learn. That's the difference. The wedding was approaching, and with it came another test. Elizabeth had requested a meeting to discuss the arrangements. She arrived on time, humbled but not broken, exactly as I'd intended. Sarah, she said, her pronunciation careful, respectful. We've been thinking about the wedding traditions. Oh. Amanda would like to incorporate Korean customs to honor David's heritage, but she swallowed her pride, we need your help to do it properly. I study her face, remembering the woman who had mocked my accent just months ago. And you're comfortable with that? Having your society friends watch you participate in ethnic traditions. I deserve that, she admitted. But yes, it's time we showed people what really matters. The wedding planning became an unexpected bridge. Elizabeth learned to pronounce Korean terms without mockery. Richard, stripped of his financial pretensions, revealed a decent man beneath the arrogance. And Amanda. Mom? David entered my office one evening, finding me reviewing wedding details. You did all this on purpose, didn't you? Not just teaching them a lesson, but showing them a better way. The best investments, I told my son, are in people's potential to change. The wedding day arrived, a beautiful blend of cultures. Amanda, stunning in both a white gown and a traditional hanbok, insisted on greeting guests in Korean. Elizabeth, her designer tastes tempered by humility, worked alongside my event staff instead of ordering them around. During the reception, I overheard Richard telling his country club friends, my daughter didn't just marry into a successful family, she married into one that taught us the true meaning of class. Later, Amanda found me watching the celebrations. Thank you, she said softly, for not just destroying us when you could have. For showing me what real strength looks like. I touched the jade pendant at my neck, thinking of my own journey. Success isn't about proving others wrong. It's about proving to yourself what's right. As the evening wound down, David and Amanda departed for their honeymoon. Elizabeth approached me with a small gift. It's not jade, she said, handing me a simple box, but I hoped it could be a start. Inside was a delicate silver necklace with 2 intertwined circles. For our families, she'd explained. Different, but connected now. I clasped it alongside my mother's jade, symbols of 2 journeys, one that had taught me to build power, and one that had taught me to use it wisely. You know, I told Elizabeth, there's an old Korean saying, after a storm, the earth becomes harder. Perhaps the same is true of people. She smiled, finally understanding. And families, especially families, looking out over the celebration, my son and his bride, the humbled but healing Harrisons, the merged cultures and learned respect, I realized that sometimes the greatest power isn't in arming someone's mortgage. It's in arming the moment when they finally see themselves clearly.